In this video, I'll share advice that people gave me when I said I was retiring overseas. They said, Dan, here are the reasons why you cannot retire overseas. Hearing this advice may help you prepare for the fears that family, work associates, and friends will share with you when you share your ideas with them. Only one or two people were happy when I shared my plans to move overseas. Only the people who had already lived overseas encouraged me. Everyone else seemed skeptical or fearful and tried to convince me that it was a bad idea. After I share what they said, I'll share what I did or said at the time and how things actually turned out over the years since leaving the US 18 years ago. Then I will share the 3 biggest mistakes not to make when you're getting ready to leave your home country. There were 2 critical times when family, co-workers, and friends gave me advice about moving overseas, at age 46 and at age 59. I'll share the advice I got in reverse order, age 59 first, then age 46. Then I'll share those quick 3 mistakes not to make. Okay, retirement advice I received when I was age 59. I'm age 65 today, but 6 years ago at age 59, I was laid off from a job. In that job, I was working over the internet on my computer as I traveled the world. When I got laid off, I looked carefully at my financial situation. I checked my Social Security webpage, and it looked like I would get just under $2,000 US per month if I retired in 3 years at the time, which would have been age 62. At that time, I had savings and investments, but I didn't think I had enough to carry me through retirement into old age and eventually death. I wanted a bigger buffer. From age 20 until age 40, I had worked for myself. During that time, I had started several businesses on a shoestring. I had succeeded at some and failed at others. I never really got rich at anything, but at age 59, I was pretty confident I could start an online business again. Since I had already learned to live overseas on much less, I knew I didn't need to make a lot of money to continue my travel lifestyle in these cheaper countries. So I decided to start a YouTube channel to see if I could cover my travel expenses. I shared my plans with a friend, and here's what he said. My friend's retirement advice: starting a YouTube channel is a long shot in 2019. Plus, you only have 3 years until you can draw Social Security at age 62. Just come home to the US and drive an Uber taxi for a few years and let your investments grow. People are making 40 to 60K per year driving Uber taxis, is what he said back in 2019. And while you're here in the US, you can put out your resume to see if you can snag a higher paying job. Well, that's his advice. So what I did and said at the time, I listened to his advice and I thanked him. In his defense, he was sharing the sure thing. Not everyone who tries is successful in starting YouTube channels. Plus, I met him on the job when I was about 45. He never knew me as someone who could start a business and succeed. So his advice was in good faith and the sure thing. So what happened over the next 6 years? In 2019, I decided to risk $40,000 in savings to continue traveling the world and sharing my travels on my YouTube channel called Vagabond Awake. You're watching it right now. Within 2 years, before I spent the whole $40,000 in savings, my YouTube channel and webpage, 𝗙𝗵𝗄𝐻, were making enough money to pay for our slow travel life. Now, in 2025, 6 years later, we make more than we need to slow travel the world. Okay, life advice from family and friends at age 59. After I was laid off at 59, I knew I didn't need to make a lot of money to continue my travel lifestyle in these cheap countries. So I decided to start a YouTube channel to see if I could cover my expenses. I shared my plans with family, and here's what they said. Family advice: Dan, you've been living outside the US for 13 years now. You'll be old enough for Medicare and Social Security soon. How much longer do you think you can keep traveling around the world this way? You should come home and spend more time with family while everyone is still alive. Aren't you afraid that these overseas doctors will screw up if you get really sick? It is okay while you're young and healthy, but now it's time to get serious about your retirement. What I did and said at the time, I thanked him for the advice. The advice came from a sincere place, even though it was not a well-informed place. I had already spent time in hospitals overseas and knew how good and cheap the healthcare was. Plus, I went home to see family and friends every other year or so for a week or two. Since they lived in different states, I saw them in person about as often as other family members that lived out of state. Plus, social media had become so common, we were on Zoom calls periodically, so I saw their faces and heard about their lives as often as I had when I lived in the state next door to them. Okay, friends' advice. Everyone's starting travel YouTube channels. It could take you years to make any money at it, if you ever do. How are you going to support living overseas in the meantime? You have spent years in the same industry developing a skill set. Why not put your resume out to see if you can snag a job in your industry? It's been a long time since you started a business, and things have changed a lot since then. It takes most companies 5 years to be profitable. By that time, you'll be able to draw your full retirement pay. Is it really worth putting all that extra work and effort in starting a business when you can retire in another 5 years? Okay, what I did and said at the time. I thanked them for their free advice and then decided to risk the $40K savings while I successfully built my YouTube channel. I don't believe dreams die at a certain age. I don't believe you give up hope as we age. I took a calculated risk, but I worked my ass off and got to where I am today, never giving up. I don't believe age is a death sentence. I think age comes with wisdom, but I also didn't just hope it would all happen. I worked my tail off to make it happen. Okay, what happened over the next 6 years? I started my online business and continued to travel home to see family and friends every year or so. I joined on family Zoom calls periodically. Within 2 years, before I spent the whole $40K savings, my YouTube channel and my webpage, vagabondbuddha.com, were making enough money to pay for our slow travel life. Now, in 2025, we make more than we need to travel the world. Okay, that's my retirement age advice I got around age 59. What advice did I get before I left the United States back in 2007? This is job advice I received at age 46. At the company where I worked, before I left the US in 2007, I shared that I was probably taking a job overseas, an outsourcing job in India. The senior person I spoke with, Dan, you can't quit this job. You're only 46 years old. Your salary will double in the next 3 to 5 years. Don't be foolish. You would be leaving this seniority, and if you move back, it could take years to recover where you are now. Plus, the job market is good now, but if we enter a recession, who knows if you'll even be employable once you get into your 50s. What I did and said at the time, I thought he was probably right, but I didn't care because I was so bored at my job. I took the job in India. They offered me almost double my existing pay with 6 weeks of paid vacation per year. So what happened over the next decade? I worked that job for about 8 years, the first 3 years in India, and then 5 more years working remotely on my laptop as I traveled all over the world. I was unemployed for about 1.5 years before I was offered another online outsourcing job for another 2 years or so. Okay, that was work advice. Now here's some life advice from friends at age 46. Various friends and family gave me advice about moving or retiring overseas so as not to offend anyone. I'll not name or quote people, but I'll share the main ideas. Friend, Dan, you're not a kid anymore. You're 46. Once you hit 50, some companies won't hire you anymore. You don't have enough to retire early yet. Your investments are not great enough to pay your expenses for a decade if you get laid off. Keep the job you have until you're closer to 62, when you can at least start taking Social Security. What I did and said at the time. I had worked for myself for most of my life until I took this job at age 40. I started many businesses. Most had failed, but they failed pretty quickly without much investment. And it was usually just a few months or a year before I figured out a new way to support myself. So I just wasn't really worried about starting a new business that could at least pay my expenses. I just didn't want to do the job anymore. I felt creatively cramped, and the job didn't offer me any self-expression. So I quit and moved overseas. What happened in the next decade? Eventually, I got tired of the work I was doing for others in India, so I quit. Eventually, I actually did end up working for myself again and enjoying what I do. In 2019, I went full-time with my YouTube channel and my Retire Overseas memberships, and I found a creative outlet for this crazy slow travel life I love so much. In my new business, I've even started teaching other people how to retire overseas on less money and how to make money online with their hobbies. You can visit vagabondbuddha.com to find out more about these 2 courses I've created. Okay, I promise the expensive mistakes you should not make if you decide to move overseas. Now, I have a 41-page free ebook that covers many of these topics and many more in detail. I'll give you that for free at the end of this video. But here's the gist of what you need to do before you leave home. Number 1 is banking. Most people living overseas temporarily lose access to the money in their home country banks, even if just for a few days. The internet goes down. They lose their ATM cards, or the bank flags their account as a suspicious activity. When you're in your home country, you just walk into a branch and immediately recover access to your bank. You can't walk into a bank when you're overseas. You don't want to fly home to solve this problem. That's why it costs so much money. So you need a backup plan when you're overseas. So here's your backup plan. Set up accounts at 2 separate, unrelated banks in your home country. So if an ATM card issued by Bank A is temporarily unavailable, you can get money out at Bank B using your Bank B ATM card. Now you have access to your money without flying home. Banking detail matters. Having 2 banks isn't enough. You also have to set up online banking at both banks so you can find out why Bank A card is temporarily not working, order a replacement card, or even move money between banks so you can get it out at the other bank. To set up online banking, you'll need 2-factor authentication set up at both banks so they can confirm that you are who you claim to be. Set up 2-factor authentication at both banks before leaving your home country and test it multiple times to ensure it works properly. Picking your second bank. Pick a second bank that rebates foreign ATM fees or has some other benefit, such as the best currency exchange rates. In the US, Charles Schwab rebates foreign ATM transaction fees. Okay, 2-factor authentication. When setting up 2-factor authentication at your bank, if given the choice, always opt for the authenticator application recommended by your bank instead of SMS or text-based authentication for 2 reasons. First, SMS authentication is not as secure as an authenticator application. And second, some SMS text carriers, such as Google Voice, have reportedly been discontinued by some banks and brokerages. If either bank does not allow authenticator applications, check with your existing smartphone carrier in your home country to see if they have international phone service that will forward SMS authentication codes internationally and verified by country name. These international call and text packages often save you hundreds of dollars on international roaming fees. And if it's a carrier in your home country, a full phone carrier instead of just SMS text, you often are able to use those instead of services like Google. Okay, number 2, international phone service. If you insist on staying with SMS authentication, one option is to buy an expensive international calling plan with your existing home country cell service. These seem to start at around $75 per month or more. Some of these international calling plans will allow you to continue using SMS authentication with your home country bank. But I don't buy one of these expensive international phone services. I use 𝗏𝐿.com US service, which costs less than $10 per month. In my free ebook, which I'll give you at the end, I cover how to set it up on 𝗏𝐿.com. Grab my free ebook for more information on that. If you get stuck, contact 𝗏𝐿.com customer service and tell them you'll be traveling outside the US. You want to get your SMS authentication codes and that you want to be able to do international Wi-Fi calling with your 𝗏𝐿 service when you're overseas. They help me set both of these up on customer service. Okay, number 3, keep an address in your home country. Many banks and brokerage houses and government agencies will treat you differently if you use an official address outside your home country. Some people use mail forwarding houses, but I do it another way that I explain in my free ebook. Use your home country address in all correspondence with businesses and government in your home country to avoid some of the hassles. Okay, here's a bonus idea. It's not the 3, but it'll save you a lot of money. Set up free family and friends communications. Set up free communications with family and friends before leaving home. This will work for communicating with friends and families for free, but not for banking. For communicating with banks, whether SMS tests or authenticator applications, use what I discussed above. And as I mentioned, I use 𝗏𝐿.com for that. For each family or friend that you want to continue or maintain communications, set up a free application for communications such as text, video calling, and phone calling. I suggest using WhatsApp since it seems to be used and be the most accepted application for communicating with family and friends in your home country, especially for Western countries. You could also use similar free applications such as Facebook, FaceTime, Google Voice, or other messenger services that will also allow phone and video calls but cannot be used for banking. Okay, scan this QR code on screen now to get a free copy of my ebook that I talked about earlier, or watch these videos over here to see all of the expats I've interviewed overseas and the free advice they have for you.